This is Dateline News and Conversation. The topic tonight is humanity on the brink. We'll talk about this, the recent escalation in tensions in Ukraine, and more with my guest, Blaž Kavčič. Blaž, welcome back to the show.
Hello, Regis. Thank you for having me.
It's always a pleasure. You are a valued friend and guest expert on this show. Tonight's topic a little bit different than what we've been talking about, but it's so important for me to find out what someone else in Europe, not Russia, not in the United States, not in the UK, France, or Germany. So I'm really curious. Blaž, this just happened this past week. First of all, the United States gave Ukraine permission to use their ATACMS long-range missiles to attack deep inside Russia. The UK and even France followed suit. What are your thoughts on the timing of this, Blaž, given the fact that Donald Trump just won re-election to the White House?
Now, from a standpoint of an ordinary citizen, this move is outrageous. Although mass formation of the people in many countries results in hate for Putin and Russia and support for escalations. On a more paradigmatic level, it becomes clear that wars in general are indispensable component of the system that controls the planet, controls United States, controls European Union, but also Russia, Israel, Ukraine. I do not see a discussion on the systemic level generally taking place, even by the alternative media not. You, Regis, you give a platform on your channel to numerous outstanding experts on particular questions. This is probably the reason why your channel is being pressed down by the controllers of the web space. Biggest alternative channels, those really big ones with millions of followers, are thriving on partial truths. They always have something very interesting and exciting, but they do not show the whole picture. And most importantly, they do not show the systemic background of the events they are commenting. I'm aware of the fact that my proposal, you know very well, the proposal of multidisciplinary approach is at present not supported by any significant power. It probably does not sound exciting enough in comparison to lavishly financed, for instance, flourishing global project or local currency projects that are emerging very intensively around. Unfortunately, partial truths lead to intellectuals and people who follow them running in circles like squirrels in a wheel. A lot of energy invested, hopes risen, protesting, forums, books, even legislative initiatives like New Nuremberg and so on, but nothing comes out of it because it shouldn't. We have discussed, Regis, you and I, the Occupy movement, where you have been involved. It was planned from the very beginning by the puppet masters to grow as if it was a workable solution. Nothing came out of it as a systemic social consequence. I try to apply a concept described by one of the true anti-fascist fighters, Antonio Gramsci, who once said, pessimism of the mind and optimism of the will. To come directly to your question, what is really going on is a controlled demolition of the society as we have known it for thousands of years. And it was planned very intensively from the Club of Rome document in 50s and very precisely described by Klaus Schwab at the beginning of the C project. We will reset how the society works and how you as beings work. Consequently, Ukraine and Palestine are spectacles of violence, both enabling the digital transformation being introduced with the aim of full spectrum dominance. Now, ATACMS or HIMARS do not change very much. There is a general coordination of events, a power above the national states. This power has a priority of depopulating people and subjugating the remaining. They, for the most part, are not aiming at annihilation of everything, including them. They want to annihilate us, our souls, organic life, and remain on top. This would be my comment on these recent events.
Wow. You know, this is why I appreciate our conversations so much, because you in much more depth than me, but I have always, well, not always, but for many years been a more systems thinker and applying that to organizations that I worked for as a consultant. So it's not a new concept to me, but what I appreciate so much is the depth of your perception of what's going on. I was really struck by the way you articulated what's going on today by this very handful of globalists, whatever we want to call them for now, the Club of Rome, Schwab, the Rothschilds, a controlled demolition of society. And not many people can look at it that way. What people are talking about today is the extinction of humanity. World War III, a nuclear war. It's on all the newspapers, all the headlines. You know, all the articles are about, well, this is what America did. Now, what is Putin going to do? Oh, they're both changing their nuclear doctrines and got everybody gaslighted about the danger and the imminent threat of nuclear annihilation. Now, I posted something earlier this week that I do not think that a nuclear Armageddon ending all life on the planet is part of the agenda that you and I are talking about. Now, you also mentioned full spectrum dominance. I have believed for a number of years now that this was the goal. I used to say it was the goal of the United States because it's been articulated by the United States political and military class that the United States will dominate on the land, the sea, the air, and space above. But it's not the United States. The United States and Biden and Trump and Obama and Bush and all of them before them are merely being used. Would you agree with this by this globalist, I don't even want to call them elite, but this globalist cabal that is seeking to fully reset the world order into full spectrum dominance for themselves? What are your thoughts on what I just said?
Well, I fully agree, and I'm listening very carefully some new analysis of what is going on in United States and some old ones. Maybe you have noticed I have I have sent you some interesting analysis from Michael Parenti yesterday or today, who analyzes these things. People of United States are being sacrificed. And I was very surprised to hear one of the people I like to listen to at the in one of the channels, progressive alternative ones, said those stupid Europeans, luckily we have more common sense here in United States. Well, I would like to, and I'm hopeful of the United States, but when I listen to the comments of the people, when they were discussing Trump or Harris or what, I mean, confusion is total. People have forgotten how important their personal lives are. And yes, I agree with you that United States was the leading power of the global empire after the Second World War. But there was always in the background the network that has been, establishing itself, changing, adapting for the last 500 years. And there are centers of power that are there. I mean, the Vatican has been a partner of all empires who have risen and disappeared from Portuguese, Spanish, Italian, German. And then they had contracts with Lateran Treaty and so on, with Mussolini, then with Hitler. And very close cooperation already during Second World War with deep state and emerging cooperation or adoption of complete Galen's Nazi network by the CIA after Second World War. So this is the not symbiosis, but synthesis, coming together, merger of one author of one book has called it unholy alliance of mafia, CIA, and Vatican. So this is the network in the background, and we should not fall prey of the narratives we hear so often. What Biden wants. What Biden wants is irrelevant if his personal wishes were not in accordance with the strategy from this long-term network of power in the background. He would never have become president of the United States. So now then you have miracles. How come when Netanyahu comes to American Parliament, he's there greeted with standing ovations, I don't know how many times? Well, it's no miracle. It's not that that a president of a small state, which actually is not a national state, but a military outpost, this person is not important as a person, and Israel is not important as a state, but they have a strategic role in long-term plans of this global empire. From the First World War on, the Balfour Declaration and so on, and Zionist movement and religious Zionist movement and not religious part of Zionist movement. It's actually, for these powers in behind, it's irrelevant. Is it yoga or Jesus Christ or God or another God or Jewish people or Christians? It's irrelevant for them. They are using religions as controlling networks, or they are using also non-religious doctrines as controlling networks, like Stalinism or different kinds of communism. I mean, it was I'm old enough that I have experienced these socialist systems, how they worked for the ordinary citizens. It was, well, it has its pluses and minuses and so on, but it was not a humanistic system, and it was not a system where the interests of the people would really be on the top. But I don't want to accuse or disqualify anything. I just analyze the solutions from the past and ask myself, what solutions from the past, from the East, from the West, should be applied for humanity to survive and thrive. This is my my analysis, and I keep returning to some of the same points. So narratives which we hear, for instance, let me be concrete. When people comment Ukraine and Palestine and Netanyahu and Zelensky, I hear many times commentators say, why did not Biden just pick up the phone? With one telephone call, Biden could stop this genocide in Gaza. It sounds very nice, very emotional, but this is very misleading. This is gaslighting, because it's not a mistake what is going on in Palestine. It is a model of controlling the population to be applied globally on us, on you and me, Regis. What they are doing against Palestinians now for decades in Gaza. And all the newest technologies are being tested there for control of population. So if only, or another narrative, which is also misleading, if only media would report honestly. Okay, we are doing our best, but media can report many things, but owners of the media do not change. System of governance does not change. So nothing will change if maybe few journalists would lose their jobs, or editors. So media are of course extremely important. It's a controlling mechanism, but media as isolated question, it's a false target. Or another, Ansar Allah is fighting for Palestinians. Okay, I respect their fight, and they are very inspiring. But to believe that some people in the world today would fight for their cousins, but not fight for themselves, I apologize, it's a little bit too romantic for me. So we have to be careful also with well-intended commentaries from the people we appreciate on our side, but they go a little bit, or another one by very famous commentator. He said the slaves will take over the power in Emirates. Now he's very knowledgeable person, professor in Iran, and he means well, and I like to listen to his commentaries. But no, the slaves will not take over, because the best result of such uprising can be a French Revolution, a bloodbath without a positive results for citizens. So these narratives are gaslighting. I'm just commenting it because I have been following these discussions, which are very intense now. And I would like the most intelligent, well-informed people to really start pursuing systemic causes and start organizing. I like very much, for instance, and I will say because it's positive, what Laith Marouf said in one of his recent speeches. He said, for God's sake, stop investing your energy, money, time, and hopes in elections. Start organizing for, I think he said, revolution. Well, hey, my position is a little bit different, but I agree with start organizing first for defense and then for liberation. Will it have the form of revolution or not? I don't know. But the term revolution is a very dangerous one, because Vatican today speaks a lot about revolution. So all the words are being used in black and white terms. Okay, so just a little bit of illustration of what I meant with my general introduction.
Well, that was terrific, and I want to pursue a little bit deeper some of the things you've mentioned. the thing that really jumped out and struck me, because I have believed what you said, but I have not been able to articulate it myself. You said, for example, Ukraine and Israel, Gaza, are just examples of what they have intended for the rest of us. That will be shocking to many people. They have not thought on this level that we're talking about, this systemic level. The other thing that I want you to comment on is something that I have had many conversations with another very good friend, a very deep and profound analyst, Dean Henderson, and he is thinking on this level as well. He has written and spoken greatly on the topic of who controls the levers of what is happening in the world. Now, I'm not going to go back further than the Vatican, because that is 2,500 years of history. But you mentioned they have controlled every empire since 2,500 years. You mentioned the Club of Rome. You mentioned Schwab and his New World Order and the global reset. Could you go a little bit deeper into who these people are and how they operate? The Vatican, the Club of Rome, a number of secret societies, the Masons, the Knights of Malta. I mean, there's more of these organizations than I can even list. Could you talk a little bit more about how they operate, and again, make it clear what their goal has been for all of these centuries?
Yeah, well, it's dynamic, but we are now in a very critical situation, a very defining moment of human history. But on the positive side, things have become much clearer after the Sea Project started 4 years ago, because these networks, whoever they are, they have written what their plans are in Agenda 2030. So it's basically, it's no secrets. And then we can all see the networks they are using to implement their goals. The result can be seen in every community, because every local community has a budget, and each of the budgets of the communities in Slovenia or in Germany or in any other member of European Union or in United States is put together in such a way to implement Agenda 2030 from the Sea Project on. You have then the banking network, the financial network, the investment corporations, BlackRock, Vanguard, State Street, and so on, about 17, the biggest ones. And they have actually unlimited purchasing power, because they have taken over the creation of not the money in a classical way, but of the purchasing power. So they can create any industry, or they can kill any industry. So they can kill any good technology, and they can promote any technology from Coca-Cola on to electric cars or to Starbucks coffee. These are all BS things, but very professionally created to control the world. I mean, the United States is a Coca-Cola, Hollywood, Disneyland culture. I mean, and football and Thanksgiving and so on. These are some models through which we are all being controlled. So these networks have, after Second World War, intensified their control of. It has not started with the Second World War. One of the very important roots was the Frankfurt Philosophic School with Adorno, and they have created then the Tavistock Institute in England. Tavistock Institute that created the Beatles and the Rolling Stones and this Rollins books and so on. I mean, things that that have gradually taken over the thinking world of predominantly young people. They are controlling completely the academia worldwide. You cannot publish, you cannot be employed as a doctor of science if you are not publishing things that are approved by the globally operating networks like Elsevier and so on. So if you are not in line, you are out. So media, academia, politics. It's now wide knowledge that young leaders and trainings and so on have been taking place, organized by World Economic Forum for decades. So all the top politicians have in advance accepted that they will pose no questions when they are ordered to act against the interest of their citizens. Like Slovenian prime minister or president of the republic or French or German. Well, the German are very popular, Scholz and Annalena Baerbock and these guys. I mean, because Germany used to be up to now the industrial engine of Europe, and it's they have managed to destroy it within a few years. I mean, it's now an invalid. So these are the mechanisms: financial networks, academia, education, schools, culture, Hollywood, films, games, gaming, and drugs and gaming. So the whole population is sort of disabled. Most of the people I talk to, I don't know what is your personal experience. Maybe it's different because you're in Russia, but people are sort of mass formatted, hypnotized. They become nervous if you say, well, have you noticed they're poisoning us from the sky? No wonder everybody is sick. What? No, it's not possible. Come on. So the people are, it's different, you know. If I take the concrete example of my country, Slovenia used to be part of Yugoslavia. At the beginning of a Second World War, when Hitler came to the second largest city in Slovenia, Maribor, and he said, we will make this land German again, meaning we will eliminate you, the lesser people, the Slavs, and we will make it German again. And they immediately started transporting people, chasing them away from their homes, first to Serbia and then to Germany and Croatia and so on. So it was very clear then. But, Regis, there was a group of people in Slovenia, their organizations, 15 of them, communists, Christian socialists, then different cultural organizations. They came together. None of the big parties or big groups, but those little groups of patriotic citizens, intellectuals, and they made an analysis and plan in seven points. What is going on and what we are going to do. We will fight for liberation and we will create a better organized society after we win. And it looked impossible then. The Hitler fascist Nazi machine was at that time controlling this part of Europe totally. And so we were occupied by Italians, by Croatians, by Germans, by Hungarians. On the other side of the kingdom was Bulgarians, also the working with Hitler. It was terrible, but people organized and risked their lives, their happiness, and we will have to come to this point in this invasion or this war against humanity, which is in large extent a cognitive war, but at times it's also kinetic war, chemical war, frequency war, psychological war. It has different dimensions. So these are the mechanisms, and I did not want to say before about Vatican. They were controlling everything. They were sort of partners, the obligatory partner to every emperor that wanted to be present and to be something, be it Napoleon or Mussolini or Hitler, or then later on American presidents, or even former late president of Yugoslavia, Josip Broz Tito. He personally had very deep ties with Vatican, and he received highest how do you say, orders for gratitude by the Vatican. Yeah, he was very highly respected in Vatican. So these are and there are more than 400 well-financed think tanks, NGOs are more, but I will say just the top handlers of handlers, like NED, National Endowment for Democracy, which is a privatized CIA. So what CIA cannot do, the NED will do. It's known. Then you have this Atlantic Council, and I mean, there are books written about different aspects. What I try to contribute is the contextual picture, how it can be, and these powers will be successful as long as in some national states, people do not organize themselves and say, we want to have United States or Maine to work for us, for the citizens of this country. And we Slovenians or Croatians or Austrians, we want Austria to work for Austrians. And we do not yet have enough people that would think in this way. Complacency is our biggest enemy.
Just articulated some things that not many people are aware of, probably will upset and moreover confuse a lot of people, but it's been extremely important. I want to pursue a little bit further really who it is for all of these centuries that have been exercising this control over basically most of the world. We've talked about the Vatican. We've talked about the Club of Rome, Klaus Schwab. You mentioned a number of NGOs, the NED. There's hundreds of them, as you mentioned. But Blaž, I have to ask the question, was it a particular pope? Was it a particular emperor? Was it a particular dictator like Hitler? Or is there some other entity that precedes the Vatican and all these? I mean, who are these people who basically are on top of all of this? Do you have any idea who they might be?
Well, I do not dwell too much on the depth of these questions and come to some potential answers of the Satanists and the Lucifer and so on. I try to be, because I worked in business for many years, I try to be concrete. And we come to the point where we have to say, okay, some sort of the organization of society is necessary. It has to be. Now, some sort of religion obviously has to be, because people were always thinking about eternity, about the powers, about so on. And so there are some things which we have to take into consideration. But as with, let's say, medicine, some things, it's always a question of balance, a question of balance. So European society with deciding role of Vatican has been a very, I would say, strong society taking over other civilizations through hundreds of years. For instance, British Empire taking over India. At the time of some 200 years ago, India was at that time more industrially developed and had a bigger share of world market than the British Empire. But there was something else. This was this mentality that emerged as a merger of ideologies coming from Vatican, Medici, Jesuits, black nobility, and then around the year 1000, William the Conqueror going over to England and so on, and then some centers, strong thinking centers developed. This is how I see, and I don't want to fall in any of these rabbit holes. But today, what came out of these hundreds of years of thinking how to control the human society, we have a network of powerful formal and informal organizations, with some most important centers in Basel, the Bank for International Settlements, Vatican, now the United States, and yes, the City of London. City of London still holds a very special role in control. Some British even say those Americans are brute force. The real brain power behind everything that is going on are we, the British. And maybe they are right to a certain extent. Now, today, you have just you can just follow the reports from Vatican. What kind of technological and social conferences are taking place in Vatican? Pontificates, they call them. The Joseph Stiglitz, Jeffrey Sachs, all the tech leaders, they are all coming there and discussing how to do and how to ecumenistically bring together all religions into one new religion. And this is all under auspices of Vatican. So actually, Vatican today is intellectual center of implementing the Agenda 2030. And it's all being published. It's all out there. There's no secrets. The more complicated question is, are you going to do anything about it? And each of us, 8 billion citizens of the world, must ask ourselves these questions. Do I know this? Do I know what is going on? And am I going to do anything about it? And no single person can do anything about it, but has to try to organize. So I'm a little bit reserved to all these positive initiatives of organizing for peace and for peace in space and for green and for this and for animals and for everything. It's all very nice and I support it, but I always put a question, is it a part of a comprehensive program that leads to liberation of your nation. Are you coming from Maine? Are you coming from Texas? Are you coming from Slovenia? Do you have a national liberation league committee? No, we don't have. We have excellent experts for isolated questions, for chemtrails, geoengineering, vaccines, mRNA, this, that, and so on. Yeah, excellent. Also, I think, and a lot of it is worth following. There's a lot of scientific truth, but no multidisciplinary connecting together into what are we going to do. And let me put it very simply now, Regis. How to stop the systemic and systematic poisoning of us, the people, and our environment? Or are we not being poisoned? If you, dear activists, do not know that we are being poisoned through air, through water, through food, through pharmaceutical products, then you are a collaborator of occupier, of the globalists. Let me be very blunt, Regis. I apologize. But is poisoning acceptable for us or not? This is one very concrete question for each of us. We, a lot of people, more and more people have health problems. And what we receive is more and more expensive treatments instead of eliminating the causes of disease, which is poisoning. The main cause of disease is poisoning. And so this is a very, I have some very concrete testing points.
Yeah, one thing about Robert F. Kennedy Jr., for most of his career, he has been talking about precisely this, the poisoning of he's focusing on America, but it's the whole world. And his entire professional life has been focused on how we've been poisoned by food, how we've been poisoned by vaccines, how we've been poisoned by what's happening to the environment, whether it be chemtrails or whether it be fertilizers or GMOs or whatever it is. I absolutely agree with that. And I can tell you this, Americans have been poisoned by food. I'm living in Russia, and there are no GMOs that are allowed. I think Russians, by and large, are much healthier than we ever were in the United States. There are people here who are obese. There are people here who are not healthy, but it's a small minority. And I think it has to do with the food. And I think it has to also do with there's not a lot of stress in the Russian society over so many things that are stressing out people in the United States and Europe and other places. And stress is one of the most dangerous things that can affect people's health. That's very well known. So I really appreciate the point that you're making. The C project, and I think most people will understand what that is. And I'm not afraid to mention it on this show, but the COVID vaccine thing killed a lot of people. And it was part of the plan. There's no doubt in my mind. You keep talking about Agenda 2030. There was an Agenda 2025 of the United States to achieve full spectrum dominance. But Agenda 2030, help our viewers who are not fully aware, where did this come from? And just briefly, what is it really all about, Blaž?
Okay, I think I have been describing it shortly. Let's do it again. But before I come to that, let me just comment a little bit on Robert Kennedy Jr. Well, the most complete analysis of his work is maybe probably can be found at Wrench in the Gears of Alison McDowell. She's an analyst. And there are two lifelong projects of Robert Kennedy. One is Hudson River, another one is children health defense. And he is from Enron project on. He is an agent of the globalists, the crypto Bobby, Robert Kennedy Jr. Unfortunately, I have to apologize and explain my different view on this gentleman now becoming part of Trump's team. And yes, he has been talking about the Hudson River for water, but actually the pure water for Americans was not the target, because there are thousands of poisoned water systems in the States. And regarding vaccines, yes, Robert Kennedy has been describing the problem of vaccines, but he has never proposed the abolishing of vaccines. And why not? Because he has always also never admitted that there is no pathogenic virus. And here we come to the root of the problem. Are you supporting the Rockefeller medicine doctrine, which is based on virus and vaccine, or you are against it? And there was a journalist, Coppolino, he had an interview with Kennedy, and it became clear that Robert Kennedy, unfortunately, is on the other side. And the testing question for him is, have you proposed the banning of vaccine? No, for God's sake, no. What are his solutions? His solutions are, let's make more analysis, more tests. Let's pay people damages, which are all very perverse solutions, not even solutions. I mean, first you take away money from the people to inject poison into them. Then you take away money from the people to pay other people who have been injured or whose relatives have been killed by the vaccine. So no, I have to be quite clear on that. Robert Kennedy is assistant of the father of vaccine, which is self-proclaimed Mr. Trump. He said, I'm father of a vaccine and the father of the Warp Speed project to vaccinate the population of United States with COVID-19 vaccines with the assistance of military. What are Americans doing, dreaming or what? It's 3 years old history. For God's sake, it's all documented. So Kennedy and Trump are a team intensively engaged in implementing Agenda 2030, which is based on vaccinating people, measuring all the life processes, eliminating natural organic life, and implementing the synthetic life and eliminating the classical money, 5,000 years old, with tokens. So this is a tokenized concept. And Trump recently said, I want United States to become the Bitcoin kingdom of the world. So I have to disappoint all the supporters of Trump and Robert Kennedy. My honest belief is you have been duped.
It's going to come as a shock. It did to me, because I was kind of believing what Kennedy had been doing and proposing, and he was so anti-Fauci, and so this is a first for me, and I'm kind of surprised. I'm going to have to do a little more research on this myself. Agenda 2030, to really put it simply, is about dehumanizing us. Am I right?
Yes, you're right. It's as I said before, you explained it even shorter way, but correctly. It's about eliminating the normal organic life with synthetic controlled processes based on blockchain, artificial intelligence, installing measurements on all the natural world, eliminating carbon dioxide, which is gas of life. So actually eliminating everything that is normal and natural about us, but all of that is presented with very nice sounding words within the so-called 17 sustainability development goals, from equity to clean water, eliminating poverty, creating free society, circular economy, and so on, all nicely sounding words, as long as you do not look what is beneath. And what is beneath has been clearly explained in the books and in the charts of World Economic Forum by Klaus Schwab. And I've explained it in enough detail in my book, which we have been discussing about a year ago, Regis. And there are also some pictures from these presentations showing that what you have yourself, Regis, already said. You have cited Klaus Schwab explaining that you will own nothing and you will be happy. You will be happy because you will live in metaverse, in some fictitious world without your physical body. So these are fantasies in a way, but the practicality of it is that they are eliminating the natural world. They are destroying all normal small and medium-sized businesses. In my country, just came out, for instance, they are declaring boilers, heaters for water as not allowed. So you will not be able to use electric boiler anymore. And on the other hand, you see that most of the energy today created in the world is being used for military and for wars. So this is all a dirty game. But people so far are not really protesting it in a way that would be effective.
Yeah, you know, one of the things I want to mention, and I keep saying this over and over again because it's necessary. You've mentioned, for example, we've talked about a number of these things before. And I have always maintained, I've been a study of journalism for most of my life. I taught high school journalism, it was back in the 70s. And that led me to study the role of advertising and how it worked. And it's a matter of repeating the same message in very simple terms over and over and over again. And then when a new campaign is necessary, they dress it up again, but it's the same thing. And so when we talk about concepts like you and I have been discussing for over a year, it's not enough to mention it once because people are not able to synthesize it. They're not able to comprehend exactly the depth and the complexity of these things we're talking about. This is not their world. But why I think it's so important today, Blaž, to keep talking about these things. I don't know anybody other than yourself that talks in terms of these system dynamics, the complexity, the multidisciplinary work. It's not happening. And it's not part of people's world. But as we dissect it, as was I hope we've done tonight, why I think it may make an impact on people now is because more and more people are waking up. More and more people realize they've been duped. They've been lied to. More and more people are realizing they're sick. They've got all these diseases. They're under stress. And this is around the world. It's not just America. More and more people are now, because of their lack of respect for the media, and this is in America, and this is proven, the approval rating for all of American mainstream media is maybe in single digits. It has dropped precipitously. MSNBC is up for sale. They have totally lost their credibility. CNN, the same thing. Ratings have dropped precipitously. What that indicates is people are angry because they realize they've been duped. They've been lied to. And more people now are searching for other answers. And I don't have a huge audience, and I never will. But the people I know who watch this show, and there's growing numbers every day since I've been on Substack, more and more thinking people are waking up and listening. And Blaž, this is why I will continue to have you back on this show to discuss these really important things that now, as you are saying, are becoming clearer and clearer every day. They have not hidden their agenda. It's right out there, but it's your job, with my help in this medium, to continue explaining for people what is emerging right in front of their eyes. I believe more and more people are waking up today than ever before. Blaž, I want to finish on this note because we've talked about this, and it's the solution. And you keep mentioning organize, organize, organize. My best friend, Bruce Gagnon, who's on this show often, he's been an organizer all his life. And this has been his mantra for 30-some years. The secret is to organize. It's all about organizing. And organizing around what? You mentioned something that we've talked about in the past before. Freedom, the liberation of individual people and individual countries, the sovereignty of all countries and sovereignty of all people. And you mentioned the defense. I think to defend not only our borders, but to defend what makes us human, traditional human values. I'd like you to end on that note, Blaž, to summarize this up.
Yes, I absolutely agree with you that we have to return to the same points and upgrade our thinking and discussion with the inputs from the events in the world and from findings of other colleagues, because I'm impressed how much knowledge is there also from younger academics. Of course, unfortunately, each of them has some limitations, but most of them, or some of them at least, are coming out with very precious analysis of some particular question. So I'm also, based on our discussions, Regis, I'm starting to think to write another book where I will show one connection which I don't see anybody else putting together. And this is the four main categories which are important for understanding of our situation of the human civilizations today. And the first category is life. The second category is value. The third category is money. And the fourth category is crypto. So these are things I have been working on now for some years. And I see that understanding of this most important things for our life, the connection between them is missing. And I thank you for giving me a chance also to explain my views to the, let's say, fine selection of more demanding viewers. We usually get a few hundred views on different channels, and this is something. This is not millions as our colleagues on the partial truths alternative media can hope for, but we do what we can. And I will, from my side, try to continue that.
You know, I've learned something, Blaž, in the years that I've been involved in making films and videos and doing these podcasts. It's not how many are watching, it's who. And the who are the people who will take the time to listen to a show that's 45 minutes to an hour long. Why? Because they're intellectually curious, because they are thinking critically, and they're using what they learn from people like yourself in their own formulation of their own ideas. You may never receive credit for that with your name, but because they heard you and saw you on a show like this, you've helped formulate their thinking, which will come out in things that they say and write and do, what they say to colleagues. So it's really powerful. And I've learned that lesson. It's not the numbers, it's who is watching. And it's also people like you who have, you really hit me over the head today with being careful of getting caught up in the treadmill of the current narrative. For example, Ukraine, Israel, Donald Trump, his cabinet members, and helping me realize that I've got to look behind and beyond all of that to what's really happening. I can't thank you enough for that, what you've done for me, and I think for all of our viewers. You'll be back very soon because there's so much more that is going to be happening at this defining moment, as you said, in human history. That is not hyperbole. Blaž, thank you so much again for coming on the show.
Thank you very much, Regis, and thank you for what you are doing.